The Detroit Lions. Last year they went 3-13-1, year one under Dan Campbell. Coach Campbell is going into his second season as the head coach of the Detroit Lions. And there has been a good amount of discussion about this team, especially on Twitter. Could this be a team that goes from last to first? And could they potentially get into the postseason? Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to win this division. Still think that it belongs to the Green Bay Packers. And I really get annoyed that every offseason I have to come on here and tell people that the Packers are not going to regress. Because every offseason, everybody, especially Lions fans and Vikings fans, try to sell me on the idea that the Green Bay Packers are going to take a step back. It happens every offseason. And people got to realize this. As long as that bad man Aaron Rodgers remains in Green Bay, this is still Green Bay's division. And then on top of that, even though they did lose Devontae Adams, I'm pretty sure they're going to have a couple of other guys who step up on offense. And not only that, but I don't think too many Vikings fans and Lions fans understand just how good this Green Bay Packers defense is going to be. This is going to be a top 5 defense. This may be the best defense that Aaron Rodgers has had in his whole entire career with the Green Bay Packers. And that's saying something because Aaron Rodgers has had some okay defenses during his career with the Packers, but no defense on the level that Green Bay is going to have in 2022. So I think it's pretty fair to say that this division still belongs to Green Bay. Barring something crazy happening, I don't see Detroit winning this division. However, when it comes to them being able to make it to the playoffs, they definitely are a team that I think is going to be in that conversation to get that 7th seed. This is a team that has a over-under win total of 6.5. Their schedule isn't too tough. I think it's pretty moderate. You start the season off against Philadelphia. You got to play Washington. You go on the road to Minnesota. You face Seattle. So during that stretch, that's a schedule where you should be able to at least win 2 of those games to start off. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up winning 3. Philadelphia is a team that I still have many questions about when it comes to how efficient Jalen Hurts can be as a passer and just how effective of a coach is Nick Sirianni, because the Eagles were 1-8 against teams that had a record of 500 or better. Then you got to play New England on the road in Foxborough. So I think their schedule is pretty moderate. You play the Chicago Bears, the New York Giants. You should be able to take care of the Bears twice because the Chicago Bears have one of the worst rosters in the league this year. You also have the luxury of being able to play the Jaguars, the Jets, the Panthers. So there definitely are a good amount of winnable games here, but there definitely are some tough games that you're going to have to be able to win. And I think that Detroit is a team that could be able to pull off a couple of upsets this season. They doggone near came close to pulling off a couple last year. So for Detroit, I don't think it's crazy to look at this team as being a borderline playoff team. I'm not ready to say that I think they would get into the postseason. However, I do think that this is going to be a team that's going to be competitive. They're going to be in the playoff chase for the whole entire regular season. And I think it's really going to come down to what they do around week 15, week 16, and week 17 of the NFL season, which you end up closing off your season. Check me out. Their last remaining games of the schedule in the month of December, you play Jacksonville at home, Minnesota at home, on the road to face the Jets. Then you have to go on the road to face Carolina. Then you come back home and play Chicago. And then you have the Green Bay Packers at home the last week of the regular season. And maybe if you're lucky, Green Bay ends up resting their starters because maybe they already clinched the 1 seed or they already locked up their playoff berth and it's not possible for them to get the 1 seed. But that's a pretty easy stretch there going into the month of December. So for Detroit, you could probably pull off some magic that the Philadelphia Eagles were able to pull off last year, because the Philadelphia Eagles weren't good against good teams, but they got really fortunate that they were able to beat up on some of the worser teams in the league. I don't care if worser isn't a word. It's a word today. Doggone it. So for the Lions, you look at this roster. This is a pretty solid offense. It's not fantastic. It's not going to blow you away on paper, but this is definitely going to be an offense that's going to be able to come in and get the job done. people have questions when it comes to if Jared Goff is the long-term answer at quarterback for the Lions. I don't think he was bad last year. And I think that Jared Goff played some really good football. And not just I think, I know for a fact, Jared Goff played some really good football to close the end of the season, because I watched a lot of Detroit Lions games. I'm not going to come on here and lie to you guys, say that I watched every Detroit Lions game, but I think that I've watched 80% of Lions games, probably 10 or 12 of them. And it's because I had DeAndre Swift and TJ Hutchinson on my fantasy football team. So that's the reason why I had to watch the Detroit Lions play. And for the Detroit Lions, you look at DeAndre Swift, I was kind of disappointed in the season that he had. I was expecting a little bit more out of him, but I think that this year he probably ends up breaking out and he has a Pro Bowl caliber season. We already know what TJ Hutchinson brings to the table. I'm really excited about DJ Chark. If you guys haven't seen my latest segment on DJ Chark, make sure that you guys go ahead and check it out. But I'm a big fan of DJ Chark, and apparently, according from a couple of Lions fans that have hit me up in response to that video, they've said that he's been balling so far during minicamp. So if DJ Chark can stay healthy, you have a Pro Bowl caliber wide receiver. You have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who led the team in receptions, targets, receiving yards. The dude was a monster. He is going to be phenomenal this year. He caught 90 receptions on 119 targets, 912 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. He's going to be really good this year. And then when Jameson Williams ends up getting on the field, which many people are speculating somewhere in late October, early November is when we can expect to see Williams start to have a little bit of a role in this offense when he gets healthy and he's able to play. So when Jameson Williams ends up getting into the mix, this is going to be an offense that it's going to surprise some people. It's going to surprise some people. Now, this isn't going to be an offense that's going to be top 10 or anything like that. But I think it's going to be an offense that's going to be consistent. It's going to be able to get the job done. Similar to how the Las Vegas Raiders offense was last year. The only difference is that the Detroit Lions have a better offensive line than what the Raiders had last year. So I think their offense is probably going to be average to slightly above average. When you look at them on the defensive side, I like what they have on the defensive line. You drafted Aidan Hutchinson. I think he probably should end up having 8 sacks as a rookie right away. You have Charles Harris, who has 7.5 sacks, which led the team. You have Romeo Okwara, who only played in 4 games last year until he got sidelined to a season-ending injury. But the year before that, in 2020, he had 10 sacks. You also have his brother, Julian Okwara, who had 5 sacks last year in 2021. The linebackers concern me, okay? And I'm not really going to say who they have at linebacker because I don't even know who's going to be starting at linebacker. I know they have Anzalone, and you have Derek Barnes, who you drafted out of Purdue last year, but none of those guys really impressed me when I saw them play last year, so linebacker is still a work in progress. There's probably still a lot of hope for Derek Barnes simply for the fact that he was a rookie. At cornerback, I think you're pretty set there. You have Emmanuel Rouye, you have Mike Hughes, you have Jeff Okudah. I don't know what's going to happen with Jeff Okudah. Is he going to play outside, or are they going to move into the slot? At safety, you have Tracy Walker, pretty solid, and you have DeShon Elliott. And DeShon Elliott, for those of you guys who don't know, is one of my favorite NFL players in the league. I watched him all throughout his college years at Texas. I was crossing my fingers that the Steelers would draft him, but as you guys already know, he just had to go to the Ravens. It's funny how the Ravens always get all my favorite players, don't they? They get Lamar, and then they got DeShon Elliott. I hate it here, man. I really hate it here. And the thing with DeShon Elliott is that if he can just stay healthy, if DeShon Elliott can at least give me 14 games, I think that you have a safety that can end up maybe making it to the Pro Bowl. DeShon Elliott is really, really good. And for those of you Lions fans who don't really know too much about DeShon Elliott, if you guys want me to do a segment on DeShon Elliott, I can. But I'm a big fan of DeShon Elliott. He's aggressive. He's really good when it comes to making tackles. He also is able to make plays on the ball. He caught his first ever career interception last year. So I'm really excited about DeShon Elliott. DeShon Elliott is a really good football player when he's on the field. And if you're somebody who is into Pro Football Focus grades and whatnot, go back and look at DeShon Elliott's PFF grades from last year before he got injured in 2020. Really good, really solid football player. The analytics back it up and the film backs it up. I'm really excited about what DeShon Elliott brings to the Detroit Lions. Two of my more underrated free agency signings actually were made by the Detroit Lions, signing DeShon Elliott and signing DJ Chark. I think that these are two critical signings that are going to have a drastic impact on how good the Detroit Lions are going to be this year. I love DeShon Elliott, man. I might have to just go ahead and get me a DeShon Elliott jersey because that's how big of a fan I am of him. And I already got some shoes to go along with it. You know, I'm going to wear that thing with some low top Air Force Ones. You guys already know, all white. Know how we rocking. But yeah, man, when it comes to the Lions making it to the postseason, I don't know if they will get in, but I do expect them to be a borderline playoff team. I think that this is a team that's going to be highly competitive, which they were pretty competitive in the majority of the games that they played last year. They just had really bad luck. I'm still having haunting memories of that Justin Tucker walk-off field goal. Oh my goodness, man. It was just so hard to watch the Lions play. And I'm not even a Lions fan, so I know you Lions fans are going through it. It was just really hard to watch. And then I saw on one press conference when Dan Campbell broke down. It was just really disheartening to me, man. It was really hard watching the Lions play, and I wasn't even a Lions fan, so I didn't even ask Lions fans how they felt after loss at a point. I was just hoping and praying to God that they will finally win the game for Christ's sakes. But I like what the Lions are going into year 2 under Dan Campbell. I definitely feel that this is a team that's going to be really improved. You're going to see a noticeable difference this year on the field. And this is definitely a team that should be able to compete for a playoff spot. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got in. Key word, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not expecting them to get in. If you were to ask me, JT, I bet you $10 that the Detroit Lions would not make it to the playoffs. I probably would take that bet. And if you came up to me and say that, hey, JT, I bet you $100 that the Lions will or won't make the playoffs or the Lions will win more than 8 games, I probably will look at you with a sour face, probably give you a little mean mug and tell you, get out my face. I'm not making that bet. So I like when the Lions are going into the 2022 NFL season. This is definitely a team that's going to be really improved. And I'm excited to watch this team because I am going to be having my eyes on them regardless if I have players on their squad on my fantasy football team or not. I'm just intrigued in the Detroit Lions. I love what Dan Campbell has been building so far. I love the attitude that he has instilled in this team. You know, last year I said that the Detroit Lions were going to be better than what a lot of people thought. And I was wrong, but I was right in this sense. I was wrong because I thought they were going to be able to win at least 6 games last year, and they didn't do that. However, I was right because they were a highly competitive football team. A good amount of games they played came down to 1 possession. They also had some games where they got blown out. Okay, but this was a team that last year was super competitive most of the times they played, and there's no reason why this team shouldn't even be even more competitive. And you think about some of the games that they lost last year that came down to 1 possession games and whatnot. Imagine now that they have a better team, they should be able to win a couple more of those games. So let me know how you guys are feeling about the Detroit Lions. Do you guys think that they will make it to the NFL playoffs this season? And make sure that you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast. Remember that the JT Sports Podcast is available on every single podcasting platform. Wherever you get your podcast from, the JT Sports Podcast is available. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts. The JT Sports Podcast is available on every single podcasting platform. I appreciate you guys for listening to this episode of the JT Sports Podcast.